Now we got to move on to finance and administration. So in part 3 of this video, we're going over finance and administration. When you hear finance, you're thinking accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, things like that. The finance organization has 3 main components. It has accounts payable, accounts receivable, general accounting, and the statements that go along with that. But it also has contracts, the legal side of it, and it has the human resources and payroll components that go into it. Each of these areas has underlying systems. In some cases, it's all one system, but in most cases, there is a split between systems, and making sure that they all tie together and integrate is really important. Let's first talk about financials. That's accounts payable, accounts receivable, tax, things like that. And there are many great products. The most common one you're going to hear about is QuickBooks. It makes it really easy for small businesses to get going, and it integrates with a significant amount of third-party tools. But other ones like Xero or FreshBook or even Oracle NetSuite, a more sophisticated tool, those are also great tools that can run the financial part of your organization. When you're evaluating them, just make sure it can fit into how you do things. For example, if you're a company that bills for time, make sure that the financial system you put in has a good way of organizing hourly-based invoicing, for example. Now, underneath finance is typically legal, and legal is essentially contracts and agreements. And there are definitely a lot of tools and a lot of ways you can go with this, but you want to make sure that if you go digital, which we are 100% digital, that your documents are being signed and being organized and managed by a third party that is reputable. We use a tool called DocuSign for the majority of our contracts, but these contracts are typically contracts or agreements with contractors, with employees. We send all of our employment agreements through DocuSign. We send our company handbook through DocuSign. We put all of the documents that we want a signature and we want to store, we put those through DocuSign. Now there is an exception. We use a tool called Proposify for our proposals, and Proposify has a way to accept and obtain signatures on the documents. So in that case, when Proposify executes a document, we'll get that document and we'll put that into our collaboration system, which I'll talk about later. But other than that, the majority of our documents and our agreements go through DocuSign. Many other products out there. The integration is going to be very important. If you choose a digital signature product, make sure it has some form of application programming interface, or API, that you can interact with. Because just manually sending a document out to be signed and getting it back, that's a tedious process that requires a lot of human interaction. If you're going digital with digital signatures, it stands to reason that invoking the request for that signature should be automated as well. Make sure that the one you choose fits in with whatever system you're using to get your proposals or quotes signed. Maybe that's your CRM, and maybe your CRM has its own document signature system. You look at that. Or maybe your CRM already integrates with DocuSign. Look at that. Just make sure that whatever you pick, it ties into your other systems. Makes your life a lot easier. Now for human resources, there are some sophisticated human resources programs out there. When you're a smaller business, you really just need the basics, and there are many great ones out there. We use a tool called Gusto, and it allows us to do all of our payroll. It allows us to do all of our end-of-year processing. It tracks everything, and anyone can log into it to see their pay stubs. So we have 100% digital. We then put our benefits into Gusto. So Gusto is also the tool we use to manage our benefits system. And so that's worked really well for us from a payroll perspective. And from an HR perspective, in that it's also a confidential database where our team members, whether they're employees or contractors, can update their information. However, we do some work that requires tracking hourly. In fact, most of our work requires some sort of hourly tracking, even if we don't bill that way. And the reason we track hourly is because whether we're billing by the hour or billing a fixed amount, we need to understand and track the costs associated with delivering our services. We started using a tool called Harvest for that. Now we're on QuickBooks, and QuickBooks has their own time tracking, but we wanted to be able to do something a little bit more complex. We wanted to be able to budget for projects based on a role on a project and do this over and over again. And we all wanted to be able to run reports that were budget versus actual on the expenditures of labor resources so that we could see if our projects were profitable. And we evaluated many great tools, but Harvest gave us the most comprehensive capabilities. And so we use Harvest as a way to track all the time associated with our team members, and that is fed into QuickBooks so that we can do our billing if it's hourly, but pay our contractors and pay our employees that their payments are associated with hourly through QuickBooks. So a great tool for doing time tracking, Harvest app. So for finance, we have our traditional financials. That's your QuickBooks of the world. We have legal, that's the contract and agreement management, and we have HR payroll. Now the other side of that organization is IT and administration. We think of it as finance, IT, and administration. It's kind of like one bubble, and it supports the whole organization. And so when I talk about administration, I'm going to get into some systems that are intended to bring our whole company together. The administrative systems that tie us all together, well, that's our collaboration and communication systems, our integration, that is tying all these pieces of software together, and reporting and analytics. So when I think of administration in the company, I think of collaboration, communication, integration, and reporting as that entity. Collaboration, communication, and productivity tools. We use a tool called Microsoft Teams for our collaboration. And I've done several videos on this. I'll put some links in the show notes so you can see some other videos on this topic. But we use Microsoft Teams because it makes it really easy for us to interact with each other when we're working on a project together. And in fact, we always set up a new team whenever we get a new client. And whenever a new project is starting, whether that's for an existing client or a new client, we created a new set of channels in that team so we can all communicate with each other on that effort. And what's great is it compartmentalizes all of these different people to those specific activities so that we're not spamming everybody with everything all the time. It's a way to organize it. And there's another tool called Slack that works much the same way, and it's an excellent tool as well. We've used both. We're on Microsoft Teams simply because we are a Microsoft Office 365 shop. And there are a lot of capabilities built into Microsoft Office 365. Microsoft Teams is one of those, and it's a key part of our productivity, collaboration, and communication. And because we're on that Microsoft stack, our communication is supported by Office, Outlook, Office 365, all those little things that are used for booking appointments, sending emails, that type of integration and communication. Now I mentioned integration. Integration is how you connect different systems together. Some systems natively will connect to other systems. For example, you might have a CRM that natively connects to a separate marketing automation system. You may have a financial system that natively connects to a time entry system, and they're already put in place the connectors there. But for systems that don't natively connect to another system you're using, we have to have a way for those to communicate with each other. And those communications will happen through another piece of software. You can write your own software, but when you're running a small business, it's the last thing you want to do because writing your own software means supporting your own software. So you have to take that into account. For our integrations, we use a tool called Zapier. And Zapier was chosen for one simple reason. It has a huge number of integrations with different systems, thousands and thousands of integrations. So when I purchase two systems that don't communicate directly, there's a very good chance that an event in one system can trigger an action in another system. So let's talk through some of the scenarios that we have. Say, for example, in our CRM system, we close a deal, Proposify gets a signed contract, it updates the CRM automatically because those two integrate, that opportunity is closed won. Well, what I could do right now is when an opportunity is closed won in our CRM using Zapier, that's a trigger. So a new closed opportunity triggers Zapier. And then I can tell Zapier, well, when that happens, I want you to go to Asana. And if we don't already have this client set up, I want you to create this client And then I want you to create a new project for that client. So automatically create a project in the project management system under operations when a proposal is signed. Zapier is the tool we use to connect those things together. And we have a long list, and look in the show notes for a link because I did a video on Zapier and actually walked through some examples where we're using Zapier to do marketing automation as well. But your fundamental infrastructure, Zapier is the way to link things together. And the last element of our administration is reporting and analytics. We have internal reporting and external reporting. So first, let's talk a bit about internal reporting. To manage the business, we have a series of key performance indicators. There are just things we manage to. We manage to the number of leads that come in, we manage to a close rate percentage of sales, we manage to the time we deliver our projects, we manage to many different success levels, profitability, things like that. These all sit on dashboards in our organization, and some of that data comes directly out of our marketing automation CRM system. We use a tool called Graphly as a layer on top of that system. But there's also another tool that fits neatly into Microsoft Teams, and that's Microsoft Power BI. Microsoft Power BI can already natively interact with tools like Asana. It can already interact with, of course, the Microsoft suite and many other systems. So we have Microsoft BI as another method. And then internally, we've created our own repository for data where we run our own reports. This part of the organization responsible for reporting and analytics has to make sure that the business leadership has dashboards that they can use to manage against key performance indicators that are aligned with the future goals for the business. Now, on the other side of this, reporting and analytics does client reporting. So for example, if we have a client that we're providing search engine optimization or SEO services, well, we need to report to them on a regular basis. Are we improving your traffic? How many visitors are arriving? Are we increasing your ranks? What are you ranked for these keywords? There's all this important reporting. We have a team committed to doing the reporting as well, that they deliver this to operations. So operations has the tools when they're running client meetings to share with that client. And so putting all this together into one organizational entity, reporting and analytics, and having tools like Graphly and Power BI and custom reports is how we're able to make sure that we have the data we need and we're also able to give the clients the data they need. So let's put some things together. Here's some scenarios. You have a lead, and that lead is in your CRM system. And you're going to start sending that lead some emails using marketing automation. And you're going to track your open rates and your click-through rates. And that's going to go back into the CRM so you can see how they're interacting. Sales then contacts this person who's been getting the marketing and reacting to the marketing. And sales then updates an opportunity in the CRM and ultimately then generates a proposal. When that proposal is signed, sales generates an order. That order automatically is fed into the financial system, automatically fed into QuickBooks. And we got this whole thing stitched together where different systems are working together under one set of orders or integration capabilities to get that first part done, from a lead all the way into financials for that order. Well, then that hands off to project management. When that order passes to financials, that order also creates a new project in Asana. So project management now has what they need to do and assigns a task to the operations manager to load in a template of all the tasks that need to be done for that type of project. And that manager is going to assign a project manager, going to assign other team members, and those team members and that project manager are then going to get tasks assigned to them, all in the project management system. And they're going to talk to each other and communicate about the project using the collaboration system, Microsoft Teams. So they're talking back and forth to each other, and if there is an action item or something needs to be done, the person who needs to do something or their project manager is going to go back to project management system and create a new task. And when that person is working on that task, they're also going to use Harvest to track their time. They'll click a little button at the top of the page, and then they're going into Harvest and tracking the time. And now all of this ends up in reporting and analytics, so the project manager can look at the time tracking, compare that to all the tasks that are being done, and also can compare that to what the costs of labor should be for this project so they can determine if they're running a profitable project. We have another process that ties things together as well. So think of the CRM now, not necessarily from a client perspective or getting new business, but the CRM as a tool to track all the people that might be interested in working with us. Whenever somebody goes out to the website and has an inquiry, that goes into the CRM too. That is an inquiry to be part of our team. So that goes in there, and then say we go back and forth, and if you want to see the process of how we do interviews, I've got another link for that as well. Look in the show notes, you'll see that. So we now have an agreement with this contractor or full-time employment, and when that happens, that agreement is stored in DocuSign, and when that agreement is signed, tasks are assigned to set that person up, to add them into Office 365, to add them into Keep, to add them into Harvest. A series of tasks are assigned to different people in different parts of the organization. And we roll that person out, we welcome them, and all of the systems that they need access to are ready to go. And then they get an automated series of emails, a campaign, much like a campaign that we would send out from a marketing perspective. We send a campaign out to a new team member so they can watch videos and learn more about our business and know what's coming next and get the links to the systems they're going to use and see the videos and training for those systems. So all this stuff ties together. We make sure that the systems we put in place have endpoints that we can stitch them together. We make sure that the systems we put in place can communicate with each other without duplicating content in different places. And we make sure the systems we put in place support the size of business we are and the complexity or sometimes simplicity of the processes we run. Tying operations and sales and marketing all together are three other areas. And the first is finance. Finance are your financials. It's the accounts receivable, accounts payable. It's paying taxes, things like that. The second part, well, those are your contracts. Whether the contract is with an employee, a third-party contractor, or somebody internal providing services, or that contract is with a client, you need to have a way to obtain digital signatures and store and organize all those contracts for future reference. And finally, the HR payroll system. Whether you are 100% contractors paying hourly or you have W-2 employees, you need to have some form of system that they can log into, they can track their time, they can receive their payments, they can review their tax withholdings. And those HR payroll systems sometimes fall within financials, but they are usually a separate component of the overall finance umbrella. And another element tying it all together is your information technology and administration. And the foundational system that your whole organization is going to need right off the bat is collaboration and communication. Look, email sucks. I don't care how big your company is. If you're managing your communications through email, you're going down a path that will not scale well. You need tools that organize communications between team members into ways that are easily follow, into ways that are easy to organize, and they're tied to the work that you're doing. Put time into and plan what collaboration and communication tools you're going to use, and then put in either policy or build a culture around how you use those tools so that your organization is effective in using them. The next part of this is tied to information technology, and that's the integration. You are likely going to choose best of breed products for each of these areas. And since you're tying together many different systems, having a platform where your systems can communicate with each other is optimal. Now, some systems natively interact with other systems, and that's great. Oftentimes, your financials already automatically integrate with your CRM. But for those systems that do not natively communicate with one another, you need something to link them. The tool I mentioned in this video is Zapier, but there are others out there. And finally, under administration, you have to have some form of reporting and analytics. Whether that's internal reporting and analytics, where you have dashboards to see how healthy your business is, or external, where you're giving reports to your clients on a regular basis, showing them how well you're doing for them, you need to have this foundation in place, falling under administration, so that the internal teams get what they need and your clients get what they need. And it's all under technology platforms that are appropriate to your business and your industry. So that's it. That's your business. You have your marketing, sales, operations, finance, technology, and administration. Take time now to look at the current state of your business. in these functional areas. How are you doing with technology? And if you have some things to share, pop it in the comments. It's always appreciated. So those are our systems, and that's how they tie together. I'm hoping this is helpful. I make videos every week. If you found this useful, please do me a favor. Give it a like, maybe subscribe, or if you're doing something different or disagree with my views on some of these systems, put it in the comments. I'd absolutely love to hear about it. Appreciate your time today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.